On Friday, October 17, 2025, the political world was rocked, not by a White House briefing, but by a post on Donald J. Trump's Truth Social. Trump announced he had commuted the prison sentence of George Santos, the disgraced former congressman from New York. Santos, serving a 7-year sentence for fraud, was to be released immediately. The announcement was classic Trump, direct, brash, and designed to dominate headlines. Dropped on a Friday afternoon, it was no quiet news dump. It was a declaration of presidential power. Trump's post was brief, framing the act as correcting an injustice, ending with, "Good luck, George, have a great life." The move felt less like a formal act of state and more like a personal favor, Trump's signature style. For those following Trump's presidency, the move was both shocking and entirely predictable. He's long used clemency to reward allies and send messages to opponents. The Santos commutation fit this pattern perfectly. It was a reminder: loyalty to Trump can yield extraordinary rewards, even after a federal conviction. The decision was made swiftly, reportedly influenced by personal appeals from Santos's friends and allies. The Justice Department's pardon attorney was bypassed, another hallmark of Trump's approach. News networks scrambled, pundits dissected, and outrage erupted from Democrats and some Republicans. Trump's supporters, meanwhile, cheered the move as a blow against a biased justice system. Santos, in prison for less than 3 months, was suddenly free. His release was more than personal victory. It was a symbol of presidential power overriding the courts. The event underscored the president's ability to redefine political accountability. The Friday bombshell landed, and its reverberations were immediate. The message was clear. In Trump's America, loyalty is the ultimate currency. The commutation was not just about Santos, it was about Trump's grip on the political narrative. The boundaries of executive authority had been pushed once again. The story was far from over. The nation braced for the fallout. George Santos's political career was brief and infamous. Elected to Congress, he quickly became a national spectacle as journalists uncovered a web of lies about his background and finances. But beneath the ridicule, a federal investigation was underway. Prosecutors alleged Santos used his campaign for personal enrichment, defrauding donors and engaging in identity theft. He pleaded guilty to wire fraud and aggravated identity theft in April 2025. The judge handed down a stiff sentence: 7 years and 3 months in federal prison. Santos's expulsion from Congress in December 2023 had already cemented his place in political scandal. While incarcerated, Santos and his allies launched a public campaign for clemency. He wrote an open letter to President Trump, admitting guilt but arguing his punishment was excessive. He cast himself as a man lost in the system, pleading for fairness. The appeal was a direct plea to a president known for sympathizing with those he saw as wronged by the system. The campaign gained traction among Trump's supporters. The groundwork for a commutation was laid. Santos's story became a test case for Trump's willingness to reward loyalty. The stage was set for a dramatic intervention. President Trump's defense of the commutation was pure political theater. He didn't claim Santos was innocent. Instead, he called him a rogue, downplaying the crimes as unconventional behavior. Trump argued Santos was a victim of selective prosecution, mistreated in prison, and subjected to solitary confinement. This narrative cast Santos as a victim of a cruel system, not a perpetrator of fraud. Trump's favorite tactic, whataboutism, surfaced as he compared Santos's crimes to Senator Blumenthal's misstatements about military service. The legal merits were irrelevant. The message was about loyalty and power. The commutation was framed as a stand against a politicized justice system. Trump's statement, "I just signed a commutation, releasing George Santos from prison immediately," was a show of authority. The move signaled to allies loyalty would be rewarded. The boundaries of presidential power were once again tested. The message, Trump alone decides justice for his own. The commutation of Santos's sentence was a transaction rooted in loyalty. In Trump's world, allegiance outweighs competence or integrity. Santos, despite his downfall, remained a steadfast Trump supporter. This act of clemency sent a message: stand with Trump, and redemption is possible. The commutation became political insurance for other allies facing legal trouble. It reinforced the idea that loyalty could shield one from consequences. For Trump's base, the move validated their grievances against the justice system. Trump positioned himself as a champion fighting a corrupt system. The announcement, made on Truth Social, bypassed traditional media and energized his supporters. Outrage from opponents only amplified Trump's message. The controversy kept him at the center of the national conversation. The commutation was both a reward and a warning. In Trump's party, loyalty is everything. Presidential clemency is meant as a tool of mercy, but its use varies widely. Past presidents like Obama used it to address systemic injustices, commuting sentences for nonviolent offenders. Trump's approach is different: clemency as a reward for loyalty and a weapon in political battles. In his first term, he pardoned allies like Roger Stone and Michael Flynn, often bypassing formal review. The Santos commutation fits this pattern: personal, political, and overtly partisan. Where Obama sought reform, Trump's clemency is about rewarding friends and punishing enemies. This shift raises questions about the purpose and limits of presidential power. The pardon power was meant as a check on the courts, not a tool for political favoritism. Trump's actions blur the line between justice and politics. The commutation of Santos is a stark example of this new model. The debate over presidential power is more urgent than ever. The commutation sparked immediate outrage and celebration, splitting the nation along partisan lines. Democrats and critics called it a blatant abuse of power and an insult to the justice system. Social media erupted with hashtags like #MyPardonGate, expressing disbelief and anger. For many, the decision symbolized a presidency unconstrained by ethics or accountability. Trump's supporters, however, saw the move as a righteous act, proof he was fighting a corrupt system. On pro-Trump forums, Santos was cast as a victim, his release a victory for their movement. The event highlighted America's deep polarization. One side saw corruption, the other, courage. There was no middle ground, just two irreconcilable realities. The commutation became another flashpoint in the culture war. The divide grew deeper. The nation's trust in its institutions was tested once again. The Santos commutation raises profound ethical questions. The law is supposed to apply equally, but clemency for political allies challenges that principle. It creates the perception of a two-tiered justice system, one for the powerful, another for everyone else. The pardon power is meant for mercy and correcting injustice, not rewarding loyalty. When used for political gain, it erodes public trust in democracy. Citizens begin to doubt the fairness of the courts and the integrity of the system. The line between legitimate discretion and abuse of power blurs. The Santos case suggests mercy is now tied to allegiance, not justice. This sets a dangerous precedent for the future. The ethical implications will haunt the nation for years to come. The commutation's impact goes beyond politics. It strikes at the heart of the rule of law. When presidents override judicial outcomes for allies, legal consequences become negotiable. This emboldens public officials to act corruptly, believing loyalty will protect them. The deterrent effect of the law is weakened, and public corruption may rise. Prosecutors and judges may feel their work is futile if it can be undone by a single political act. The independence of the justice system is threatened. Over time, this could shift the balance of power between the executive and judiciary. Calls for constitutional reform may grow louder. The precedent set by this commutation could reshape American governance. The nation's relationship with the law is at a crossroads. Trump's use of clemency will define a major chapter of his legacy. He transformed the pardon from quiet mercy to political spectacle. Critics call him the pardoner-in-chief, accusing him of placing allies above the law. Supporters see a leader unafraid to fight a corrupt establishment and protect his own. The Santos commutation encapsulates Trump's style: loyalty, drama, and defiance of norms. His legacy will be fiercely debated. Hero to some, villain to others. The act deepens the nation's divisions and cements his controversial place in history. The debate over justice, power, and loyalty will echo for generations. The story of the pardoner-in-chief is far from over.